Hi, my name is Celso, and I've been working on the animation industry for over 15 years now. I end up watching most of the major animated releases that I can find, and with K-pop Demon Hunters was no different. I had zero expectations, it had just came out that day. I didn't even know what it was about. I thought it was some silly thing for me to side watch while I finished some boring work. Turns out it wasn't a series, it was a movie, and after 20 minutes I realized that I was nowhere near to be finished and I was way too entertained and little work was getting done, so I just stopped whatever work, I go full screen and I watched the whole thing. I ended up finishing around 2 in the morning and I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed. I thought the songs were cool. When the movie started, I was a bit shocked to see Sony Picture Animation on the opening credits, because in my opinion, Sony can do no wrong nowadays. Like Spider-Verse, Mitchell's and the Machine, and everything they touch turned to gold. So for me, they are now what Pixar used to be on the 2000s. A few days go by and I realized that all my animation friends are freaking out with this movie too. And I realized this became the most watched movie on Netflix history. And that blew my mind. I liked it, but I didn't expect it that much. And so far I haven't shown my kids yet, because I thought like K-pop, Demon Hunters, I don't know, like my kids are 4 and 6, so it's not for their age group, but a lot of their friends in school have seen it by now. So I end up showing them, and it's the first time my daughter finishes a movie and asks, can I watch again right now? So I was like, okay, this movie is hitting different. And to my surprise, my son enjoyed just as much as she did. And they liked it so much that my son wants to dress as the tiger for Halloween. And my daughter, we already got her a little roomy outfit. And I even 3D printed a roomy sword for her. I knew from day one was a Netflix exclusive and didn't have theatrical release. And I thought to myself, man, what a mistake, right? Like if Sony knew how popular this thing would get, they would probably have a theatrical release and make millions there. And then I decided to look up and I found this figure, 20 million. And I couldn't believe they only bought for 20 million. Seems like a lot of money to you and me, but on my personal experience, I worked on this movie that was bought by Netflix in 2018. Next Gen. So far, it's my favorite movie I ever worked on. Just got a few characters that I did in case you're curious. But it was bought by 30 million in 2018. So I couldn't believe that Netflix actually bought this for a bargain of 20 million. It's insane. It doesn't seem real. And that's because it isn't. Netflix actually covered the entire production cost of 100 million, and 20 million was the premium, the profits that Sony had on the movie. So they didn't lose 80 million on the production of this movie. They actually covered the entire cost of production and made a profit of 20 million. They could have made a lot more if they did the theatrical release. Maybe it wasn't a bad deal because the amount of money they must be making with the soundtrack alone. They had one song reaching #1 and another 4 songs getting to the top of the charts. So that must be raining money on them. And that's not even mentioning sequels, because if #1 was this popular, this is a trilogy for sure. Except it isn't, because Netflix owned the intellectual property. So any potential sequels or spin-offs and music sales are going to Netflix, not Sony. Sony has the rights to produce, to make the next ones, and they're probably gonna make 100, maybe a little bit more, $1 million. But that's production cost. It's kind of insane. So how can something like this happen? How come they didn't know the value of the property they had? Easily, I would say. You see, I wasn't involved on the production of this movie, and I haven't talked to anybody who is, but I was involved on the production of multiple other movies, and here's a quick breakdown of how things work. A lot like many governments work, a production studio has 3 powers: the creative, the production, and the technology. On the creative side, you have the people who are actually making the movie. And their job is just to deliver the best looking products they can possibly do. The problem is they're not even aware of the budget. They usually break deadlines, and they don't even know if the technology can support the ideas that they have. The production side is split in 2. There's the actual producers and the executives. The executives are invisible. Most artists don't even meet them, don't even know who they are. but they are responsible for financing the movie and maximizing profit. So anytime they have a note or something, it's about maximizing profit and avoiding trigger. The producer is the actual face of production. So they're responsible to keep everybody in track, making sure that everything that we are set up to do can be done within the time frame that's assigned, without blowing up the budget, not going over it, and capable of being executed with the technology provided. On the technology side, we have the technical directors and the CG supervisor, making sure that everything that artists set out to do is actually possible, and coming up with tools to actually help the creative department achieve the goals that they have. On an animated movie, every single decision has to go through those 3 filters. Does it actually look cool? Can we do it with the money we have? Is the technology there to support it, or can we make a tool to support it? On an ideal situation, the production and the technology are there to support the creativity. So the story is king and everything else works to support it. Even though I'm placing the creatives at the top, the importance of every single one is very equivalent. Without money, nothing can be made. Without the technology, we were not gonna have a CG animated movie. And without the creatives, there's no story to be told. Most movies that get made, they exist on the intersection between those 3 different mindsets. It has to be within the budget of the production, within reach of the technology, and generated by the creatives. Now, the best movies out there, they exist just a little bit out of reach of the 2 other departments. So maybe technology needs to reach above and beyond and actually make up new technology to get some shots done. And maybe production needs to come up with new investors or more clever ways of using the money, even breaking some deadlines. And the creatives a lot of times need to work overtime without being paid and actually pushing. From the early days of cinema all the way to the early 2000s, the creative were in charge of deciding what actually got made. That's because they wore multiple hats. The same people creating and coming up with the ideas were reaching out to investors, trying to get financing, and also driving the technology forward and actually inventing things to get things done. Even though there were specialists on each department, a lot of people were doing multiple things. And nowadays that's no longer the case. You only see that on independent studios now. Nowadays the pyramid has shifted and money sits at the top. So production and executives keep using data acquired by streaming services and box offices, trying to second guess the audience and trying to push what needs to be made. Does it have an existing following? Is it a franchise? Is it an IP that's already known? That's why so many sequels get made, so many hit remakes, so many more of the same. The ideas are no longer the driving factor, money is. So creativity and technology, the things that motivated people to actually make movies to begin with, are sitting at the bottom. And on major studios, money is the sole motivator of why things get done. And even on small studios. I used to work for this studio that bought the rights to produce a comic book for early readers. So this comic book was very popular between ages 5 and 9. So the studio owner got a small team to actually redesign the characters and make this look as good as it could for the age group that was designed to. And we did, and everybody inside the studio loved it. We presented to the creator of the original comic book and he loves it, he loses his mind. We do a little animation test, everybody's happy with it. But then our boss travels to an event and talks to a lot of executives of streaming services, and they say 5 to 9 is not a good age group right now. We're looking more for material from 12 and up. So we age him up, we get the story that has monsters and everything, and we make more focus on that age group, making things a little bit more spooky and a little bit more grown up the way that the investors suggested. The original creator hates it. And little by little, we start bringing back and doubling down on the cute factor and the age group that was promised at first. So the pendulum swung the other way and it got even cuter and even younger. And then when they tried to shop the idea, no, we need to make it a lot older. Now 15 kids 10 to 13 actually watch things made for kids 16 and up. So we gotta make it a little bit older, a little bit more mature and everything. And this cute little idea got stretched on so many different directions they just died and never got made. And maybe they were sitting on a gold mine for the age group, but we're never gonna know because the idea was killed at inception. Sony official excuse it was a pandemic era deal and was uncertain times, and recovering the cost and actually making a little profit was better than losing all, investing in marketing and everything and losing it all, right? And let's look at another Sony animation movie that came out post-pandemic or tail end of pandemic. Across the Spider-Verse, it had a similar budget to K-pop Demon Hunters. It also came out post-pandemic, and it made almost $700 million box office alone, not counting home video, not counting streaming deals that came after. But on their defense, Spider-Man already has a huge following. It's one of the most popular superheroes. It's an established franchise. It's not a brand new IP. So let's look, it's not post-pandemic, but let's look at their worst performing box office, the most hated Sony animation movie, the Emoji Movie. It came out way before the pandemic, so they didn't have that excuse, but it more than quadrupled the amount of money they invested on it. They wasted 50 million on this movie, and they made 220 million. Basically, Sony executives believed more on the Emoji Movie than they did on the most watched Netflix movie of all time. Because even if K-pop Demon Hunters went as bad as the Emoji Movie did, they still would have made a lot more money than they did with this. And they would have the IP. And the music rights. And the future streaming deals. And the video on demand. And the DVDs and Blu-rays. And the merchandising.